And so what I've learned over the last 8 months of being back in Aotearoa is the value of knowing who you are and where you come from. So as I've realized that value, now I'm reconstructing how I will work in retreats and workshops is first, know your whakapapa. And if you don't, go on a journey of learning as far back as you can. And what I understand in my interpretation of the value of whakapapa, your family roots, is this sense of belonging. The sense of belonging, of knowing where you belong to, the land that you belong to, the people that you belong to, home that is deeply enrooted in our epigenetics, in our molecular structure. And the value of knowing this small part of my whakapapa has supported me and grounding me, my 2 feet on this earth as I've walked in life. No mai whānau, no mai, welcome back, bienvenidos, familia. This kōrero conversation today is a juicy one, and it's a really important one that I feel is a big part of what's missing within Western society specifically. But not even that, but within a lot of the world, this concept is missing. And one thing that I am proud of being Māori about is the value of this concept. And this concept is called Whakapapa, which can roughly translate to family tree. And basically it's knowing where you come from, knowing where your parents come from, the land you come from, the ocean, the body of water that you belong to, the mountain that you belong to, where your people come from. And basically this idea and this concept and the sense of belonging. And so I want to share my story of Whakapapa. And if you watch my first video, which I can link in the bottom, is I share my formal introduction, which recites my very small part of my Whakapapa. And so I'll do that again, and I'll do that again. So enjoy. Make sure you like, follow, and subscribe if you want. If you're enjoying this content, we'd love to hear your feedback. Mauri ora whānau, kia ora. So, first we'll do Karakia, and as always, have a little kōrero. I share a bit of story, share my perspective on this concept, and then we end with the waiata, with the song. I'm going to read from my book of Karakia, and then we'll continue. So, you can bring your eyes to a close. If you have a hat on, take your hat off. And at the end of this one, I'll say Homie Huye, and then we all say Tāiki together. Cool. And I'll also share the translation of this Karakia. So, tēnei te ari. Wow, my speaking. Let's start again. Bring your eyes to a close, and let's breathe. Tēnei te ara. Orangi e tū ake nei, tēnei te ara o papa tuanuku e takoto nei, tēnei te ara orangi I rawa ko papa e takoto nei, kia rawa te tapu wai o tānei ki raro, tēnei te po... Bro, I'm gonna start again. Tēnei te ara orangi e tū ake nei, tēnei te ara o papa tuanuku e takoto nei, tēnei te ara orangi nui... Oh, fuck, this one's really hard. I'm gonna start again. Tēnei te ara orangi e tū wake nei. Tēnei te ara o papa tuanuku e takoto nei. Tēnei te ara orangi I rawa ko papa e takoto nei. Kia raro te tapu wai o tānei ki raro tēnei te pō, nau mai te ao. Karangitia te ao e piri, karangitia ko tānei e piri e tata, whakamaua kia teina, teina. Huye, huye, taiki e. This is the pathway of Father Sky above us. This is the pathway of Mother Earth below us. This is the pathway of Father Sky and Mother Earth before us. Allow the souls of Tani to settle into the path that leads us from dark to light. Beacon the light, wisdom to embrace me. Beacon, take the bearer of light and wisdom to embrace and hold till it's permanent, gathered as one. So that karakia is not as flowy for me at this moment because I'm using these videos as a way to learn new karakia. So that's why I have my book of karakia. And if you're just tuning in to this is your first video of my content, of my channel, karakia is a Māori prayer. There are religious karakia and there are non-religious karakia. There are karakia before colonization and there are karakia after. And I am on the path of non-colonization. Kia ora. So no mai. So the topic that I want to speak about and have a kōrero about, kōrero means conversation, is whakapapa. So I was thinking and feeling about what I wanted to share today, and like I have a bit of a plan on what I want to share and the stories that I want to share, but they didn't feel, that story that I had planned to share didn't feel quite alive today. And I was reminded of Whakapapa over the last couple of days with just been in full moon circle and drum circle over the last couple of days. And I was like, oh, maybe Whakapapa wants to be shared today. And what confirmed it, what was the tohu? Tohu means sign, and Māori is my niece from my brother's child is staying with us this weekend, and my sister's looking after her. And I slept in the lounge because I felt like sleeping in the lounge. Sometimes, you just want a good sleep on the couch, and I love a good couch sleep. And my sister put on Kungfu Panda for her, and I think it's the second or the third one. But that story, it's the story where he doesn't know who he is because he doesn't know where he comes from. And so he goes on this journey to connect with his village and his father. And I was like, so this is the tohu that Whakapapa wants to be shared today. So what does Whakapapa mean? Whakapapa roughly translates to family tree, to your lineage before you, your ancestors, your tipuna. And what I feel is important about Whakapapa that is missing in a lot of the world today is people don't really know where they come from. And one of the things that I'm most grateful about being born of Māori culture is the value that we have on Whakapapa and knowing where you come from and knowing where you belong to. And there's our Whakapapa from our human lineage, where we come from, our fathers, mothers. And then there's also the Whakapapa where you come from Papa Tūnuku, the Mother Earth, Pachamama, Ranginui Sky Father. So we can also take our Whakapapa all the way through the atua, the gods and the goddesses. Anyway, in my first video where I introduced this channel and myself, I shared a bit of my Whakapapa, which is called my Pepeha. And I want to share that with you again, so you can get a sense of that essence. And then we'll go into a kōrero about my perspective on the importance of Whakapapa. So, ko maua te maunga, ko tauranga te moana, ko nei te rangi mea nā te raukawa tuku iwi, ko ngai tukarangi tuku hapu, ko mā tātua tuku waka, ko hongonga tōrua tuku marae, ko SARS tuku ingoa. So, that only shares at the start where I say ko maua te maunga. Maua is the name of the mountain that I belong to. Ko tauranga te moana. Tauranga is the sea, the body of water that I belong to. Ko nai te rangi me nā te raukawa tuki iwi. Ngai te rangi nā te raukawa, the tribes that I belong to. Ngai tukarangi, ko ngai tukarangi tuku hapu, is the sub-tribe, which is an off branch of the main tribes that I belong to, also lives in the surrounding area. Ko mā tātua tuku waka. Mātātua was the name of the waka that my people, my ancestors, my tipuna came to New Zealand Aotearoa on. And ko Honga Tōrua toki marae. Honga Tōrua was the name of my ancestral house, my traditional grounds that I belong to. And then ko Saris toki ingoa. I can also share my mum's name, ko Priscilla toki mama. And then I can go into my grandmother, and then I can go down my grandmother's line, my nanny's line, and I can all go down my grandfather's line, my koro's line. So it's that is a small part of my whakapapa, of who I am. And so for me, for my understanding of when Māori share this, when we do a formal introduction of greeting and we share that, is it gives everybody an understanding of this is where you come from, this is your people. And so we get to know each other pretty quickly and I get a base understanding. Quite often, my previous experiences, because I've been back in New Zealand for the last 8 months now, I've lived overseas for the last 10 years, and I've always known my Pepeha because I learned it quite early. Over the last 6 months, when I've been in spaces of workshops and retreats in Wānanga is just the Māori word, roughly translates to retreat, but it's not, it's more of learning, a school of learning. Wānanga, and I introduce myself, and then quite often there's we're cousins, we're whanaunga, because we have similar tribes, and then we get to learn of each other's last names, like, oh, you come from this place, this land, yep, cool. So it's a great way to connect and to relate. Yeah. And so that's what wants to be shared today. And so as I've been back in New Zealand, I've learned that the most important thing first is to know who you are and where you come from. And I know that sometimes that's not quite available to us. Like one of the brothers that I share space with and circle with is, he doesn't know where his father's father comes from, and he is a man from England. He's a Pākehā, so we refer to European Kiwis as Pākehā, second generation as Pākehā. And when he shares that he doesn't know where his whakapapa goes to, he shares that with a lot of sadness, at least what I perceive as sadness and what I perceive as grief. And so what I've learned over the last 8 months of being back in Aotearoa is the value of knowing who you are and where you come from. So as I've realized that value, now I'm reconstructing how I will work in retreats and workshops is, first, know your whakapapa. And if you don't, go on a journey of learning as far back as you can. And what I understand in my interpretation of the value of whakapapa, your family roots, is this sense of belonging. The sense of belonging, of knowing where you belong to, the land that you belong to, the people that you belong to, home that is deeply enrooted in our epigenetics, in our molecular structure. And the value of knowing this small part of my whakapapa has supported me and grounding me, my 2 feet on this earth as I've walked in life overseas. I know where I come from. I know who my people are. I know where my traditional grounds of meeting are. And that gives me such groundedness. Such, like, I know where my spiritual, my ancestral link goes back to, and I know who and what and where I can draw from. So the value that Whakapapa has gifted me is a sense of belonging. And in this world, in this society where there is a lot of separation conditioned by the Western society of the media, and all of it is it's confusion, it's sadness, it's grief, it's loneliness, all because majority of us don't know where we come from, do not know our lineage, and where to draw our ancestral wisdom from. Sure, yes, we can have our physical ancestral lineage, and then there's also an esoterical approach of our spiritual lineage of some people that may be born of another culture but deeply resonate with the different indigenous culture. And I see the value of that as well. And we are on a macro level, we are all one. We all do come from the same place. We're all different shades of skin color, but we all bleed the same color. And so we all come from the one. And so, Whakapapa, family tree belonging, knowing who you are, firstly, from those who were before you, who are the genetic makeup of you, and then knowing what you are going to carry forward to share. Yeah, if you want to get an understanding of that, go watch Kungfu Panda on his journey of who he is and reconnecting with his lineage, and making sense from that. Oh, this is where that comes from. And it just reminded me of my experience. Actually, a couple of weeks ago, I was really desiring to connect with my tipuna, my ancestors, and I felt the calling to go stay with my nanny because she lives on our ancestral grounds, on the marae is what it's called, the marae, and I'll put it here in a little text. And I went there and I stayed with her for the week, and every morning I would go sit in front of Honga Torua, whare tupuna, the house of our ancestors, and I'll sit there and I'll meditate, and I'd have a kōrero conversation with my tipuna, my ancestors, and just sit there and be in presence. And I was desiring to connect with my tipuna, and being with my nanny that week allowed me to feel that space. And then the following week there was a funeral on my grandfather's side, my grandfather's older brother, and I don't really know that side because I grew up more on my nanny's side. And there was a tangi. Tangi is the Māori word for funeral, and we have a process on how we work with our passed on loved ones. And it was a beautiful tohu. Once again, tohu means sign, to go connect with the Henry side of my whānau, my family, because I carry that last name, and that's my koro on my grandfather's side. And I've never met my koro, my grandfather, because he passed away before I was born. And that whole week, because it was my koro's older brother, that whole week, those 3 days, I got to meet my grandfather, not physically or spiritually, but I got to meet him through the stories that were shared about him. Because a lot of my uncles, his nephews, were deeply impacted by his presence and the gifts that he passed on. And so I learned, what I learned is there's three things, traits that the Henry side of my whānau have, which is music ability, musically talented, athletic, and knowledgeable. And these are all the things that I'm like, oh, this is where that comes from. So I got to learn about the essence of that side of my whānau that is imprinted into my genes. Anyway, so that's my little kōrero about Whakapapa whānau, the sense of belonging. And so I deeply encourage you with my whole heart to go on a journey of searching, of researching, of discovery of where you come from. Knowing where your father comes from, knowing where your mother comes from, and gather as much information as you can. And if you have kids or you're thinking about having kids, is to start to instill the concept and the value of whakapapa, and write it down, write out, and have a visual diagram of your family tree, and where your family comes from, your ancestors come from. And start to teach your children to know where they come from, to know where their home is. Anyway, so That's my kōrero for today. Encouraging you. I got interrupted by my alarm. So encouraging you to go on a journey of discovering who you are, and by discovering who you are, firstly and foremost, is to understand where you come from. So I will close this with the song. Kia ora. And this is a song about, it's called He Kakano Ahau. It's a Māori song, and it's a song about without the language, the culture will die. And so the language for you and your whānau, your family, would be the language of your family tree. The essence, the cultural essence will die. He kakano hirui amai e rangi atea. And I will never be lost. I am the seed born of greatness, descended from a line of chiefs. He kakano ki ararau e I teki ana kia mau toni au o ku tikanga. Tōku reo toku o, tōku reo toku māpihi maurea. Toku whakakai Māori. My language is my strength, an ornamental grace. Ko tu ana ka urui aha e oku tipuna. My pride will show that you may know who I am. I am a warrior, a survivor, a moari ki ararau e I teki ana kia mau tonu iau o ki tikanga. Tōku reo toku oho, tōku reo toku māpihi maurea. Toku whakakai Māori. My language is my strength, an ornamental grace, an ornamental grace, an ornamental grace. Ngā mihi whānau, thank you for watching, thank you for listening. If you enjoyed it, please like, share and subscribe. Tihei!